Hello, everybody. TJ Schwartz here. Welcome back to the Edge and Flow podcast. I'm here with my co host, Lucas Burnley. We sit down once a week and we chat about knife making, craft, technology, art, all the fun stuff. And we want to keep talking today.
Sounds good, man. I'm excited. We're getting ready to go to Blade Show.
I know I keep forgetting about it because there's so much going on just
know.
in my life that I'm like, oh, yeah, huge trip to Atlanta in 1 week.
Man, it's gonna be good. I got a lot of excitement around it this year. I don't know why, man. I just feel energized by the thought of going to Blade and seeing people and like seeing product and looking
Same
at
here.
knives.
Same here. It's
Yeah,
sneaking right up on me, but I feel ready for it. But it's like I just have other fish to fry because I mean we're going out of
totally.
town for 4 days this weekend, and so I've kind of been focused on that.
Yeah,
Come back, hit the shop for a few days, then back to Atlanta.
and then
So,
yeah,
but it's gonna be great.
it's gonna be good. It's funny, man. Like muscle memory is kicking in for me, and I'm having these like minor moments of panic.
hmm
I'm not doing the show. I don't have a table. I'm just going to hang out.
hmm
But I get anxious.
It's the seasonality of the show schedule that it's
Totally.
like a circadian rhythm that's been ingrained in you. Yeah.
Yeah. We're kind of like right now just between projects. So we just finished the drop yesterday for the Burnley brand X Tactile pen.
Yeah, that thing was awesome.
Thanks, dude. I'm super excited.
I really
Dude,
like it.
pen is like one of those, like, it's like a white whale for me. I've
Really.
wanted to do a pen project for well over a decade.
No kidding.
I know people that make pens. Like, it's just never come to fruition.
Yeah. Well,
And
and you got Tactile, so what a
yeah,
good fit. I mean,
it's a pretty
I
good
think they
fit,
make
man.
pens.
They
Yeah.
do make a pen. And more
Mhm.
specifically, this is key, man. Like when I do these collabs, like at the root, they're basically stuff for myself. I'm
Mhm.
really picky about what I personally like as a pen. And I realize that like I am not my end customer, and that sometimes I have to go past what like my personal preference is. This pen just happened to be my personal preference. So
That's
it's like
awesome.
thin with knurling and a
Yeah.
clicky.
Yeah.
Dude, I'm psyched.
I know.
But
That's cool.
okay, that's like I'm like going off on a tangent. So between projects, but getting ready for Blade, I think I'm actually gonna do something for myself just to engage that like nervous energy, which is I think I am going to maybe try to prototype manually a folder.
And take it to the show?
Yeah.
Nice.
So that like I have
Yeah.
something in my pocket and I've made a new model. Like
You should you should
no
just CAD
CNC
it
though.
up and make it on the CNC in the next week.
Don't tell me that. It's really hard, man. I was trying to figure out if I could do that. Like I don't know that I would be fast enough. I also just feel like an analog project every once in a while for me is like super regulating
Mhm.
because I'm so used to the work.
Mhm.
So the last time I
Yeah.
did that was when Joe, it was his last week and we prototyped a folder so
Mhm.
that I could like walk him through fully building something with like the tools that he had. So I kind of miss it. So I might do that. I
Which,
don't know.
speaking of, he sent us a DM on our Edge and Flow Instagram page, which we're happy to get DMs from you guys. But
Yeah.
Joe DM'd us and he was saying we should do an episode where we talk about folder construction and some of
Okay.
that stuff. But I told him, like, I've never built a folder. Oh, like, I don't know if
Ooh.
people knew that, but I'm a total noob on the folder side. So I'd love to interview you about building folders and some of the like technicalities there. That'd be kind of fun.
Dude, do we just like build a folder then?
Yeah.
Like or something? That's crazy
Yeah.
because yeah, you've designed many,
hmm
but have not built one
Yeah. I've been
yet.
involved in the
Yeah.
manufacturing side of making a folder,
Yeah.
relatively hands on, but not me personally.
Well, and I would argue at this point, because of your understanding of production and the way that you are producing, I actually don't think it's a problem. I would borderline say that you have made a folder,
Hmm.
which is weird because at this point you're going to plug folder parts into your process but it's not an unknown quantity.
Mhm.
So when people first start making folders, I always tell them like you have 3 or 4 things that make this different. Everything else is like just one of your knives.
Mhm.
So it's crazy to me when you see someone who makes like really graceful fixed blades and they do their first folder and it's a brick. And you're like, you got so caught up in a stop pin, a pivot, and a lock and a detent that you actually forgot how to make one of your knives.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah.
It's crazy,
It is funny.
right? So
I've
that
seen
I
that.
don't think that's going to happen with you.
Well, I do want to attack the folder thing, and I think getting my employee totally up to speed is happening quick, and it's going to pave the way. Like it's going to build the launch pad to go into folders is having him because I don't think it was going to happen without him. I really don't.
Mhm.
Without me like stopping ordering of knives, canceling a bunch of models in the fixed blade side, like I didn't have the bandwidth to go to folders, not even a little bit. So
Yeah.
starting to look like I might have the bandwidth now. So I'm
How do
excited.
you and I being like, I don't know, fans of the fixed blade in general, and also having done many collaborations over the years, and most companies kind of realizing that folders are where like the bread and butter of the industry is. Since you now have a company that is producing and selling fixed blades, well, do you actually see a benefit in doing a folder? Or is it like what is the draw?
I do I that's a great question because a folder you get a handbasket of more problems to deal with in manufacturing than you do with a fixed blade.
Yeah,
I would say 75% of the problems of a knife are present in both a fixed blade and a folder because it usually has to do with like you're still surface grinding, you're still getting the bevel on there, still sharpening it, heat treat, like a lot of this stuff is there.
agreed.
But then there's this other section of like difficulty that may be even more difficult. I don't know. I haven't made one. But so yeah, it's a good question. Why would you bite that off? For me, I think it's like it's the desire to learn. Like
Yeah, totally.
I don't even know what the business aspect of that looks like.
Yeah,
I've thought that too, but I want to make a folder. I do like folders. I do
yeah,
carry folders. I actually usually carry a folder and a fixed blade every
yeah,
day. And so yeah, it just seems natural as like a learning curve, as like a just step up to the plate and swing away kind of thing.
yeah. That's kind of where I'm at with a lot, I guess with a lot of this stuff. Like I look at it, I'm like, fixed blades still like make my heart go pitter patter,
Mhm.
but I love the technical challenge of building folders. And I think I'm a people pleaser. And so like I love that people love folders.
Mhm.
Right. And they do, at least on my side. And this is where I ask you because of the like hyper functional kind of brand that you're building, is like a lot of the stuff around folders for me that's exciting is the embellishment.
Mm.
And so I look and I'm like, man, when you're doing like sweet tools, it's almost like, do you do that in a folder? Or if you do a folder, do you start to like go in that other, like in a
It
slightly different direction for
if
that line?
if I do a folder, I'm definitely doing a folder the way that I do fixed blades.
Yeah.
That's how I would do it, would be targeting this thing is gonna cut kindling, this thing is going to be used outdoors. It may be a small knife that's actually for, like, backpacking,
Yeah.
but it's gonna be it's embellishment is probably not the angle I would take,
Yeah.
except
Yeah.
for possibly making custom versions of it to
Yeah. Yeah.
use, put at, like, a trade show or
Yeah.
something.
You do a trade show, you do
Yeah,
like
but
a fancy show model.
yeah, but the primary goal I think for me would be targeting like the hard use slash outdoor use kind
Yeah.
of application of a folder.
Yeah.
Um, just because it's what I want. Like what you
Yeah.
said earlier, it's like that's just what I want my folders to do, you
Yeah.
know?
Well, I think process wise, that fit suits you very well. I think on the custom side, even those of us who like are in original knives, were very like tool driven. You're right, like very practical application
Hmm.
designs. As demand grows for the work, and the price point grows and everything else, like you realize that there's a certain point where it like there's something out of alignment, right? And so you
Yeah.
start to like step up some techniques, and then it's
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
once you start getting past like certain levels of finish and materials, like regardless, I say embellishment, but I'm not talking like embellishment,
Yeah.
just like even design language or material
You're
selection.
You're talking about like creating a piece of pocket art.
Yeah,
Yeah,
essentially,
yeah,
right? And whatever
yeah.
your aesthetic is around that, whether it's like, gold inlaid engraving
Mhm.
or, a milled 3D texture, like doesn't
Yeah.
matter.
It's like looking at a knife with a jeweler's eye
Yeah.
kinda thing.
That's a good
Yeah,
way to explain it.
yeah. No, and
So,
and I have 100% respect for that. I think that's really cool, and I can totally see that in your work. For me, I don't know what the folder would be exactly, but there would be that. I would try to do that at some point, but in the beginning, like I said, it would be something that I would take backpacking. Like I just can't imagine doing something different to start with, I guess.
who do you
We'll
think, like
see.
from an outdoor industry standpoint, who is the prime? Like, okay, so we think of folders, and on like our side of the aisle, it's like it's a lot of people live in cities. Like your population density is in cities, so in a city, a folder is an easier thing to carry,
Mhm.
right? If you look at the outdoor market, who who is carrying folders? It's like a general. It's like hiking, backpacking, skiing,
Yeah.
probably
So
cycling,
I'm just gonna list like some
water.
brands that have like a feel that I like.
Yeah.
One, it's not exactly right, but like there's Spartan,
Yep.
but they're doing the thing that I'm kind of picturing, but more of a tactical direction.
Hmm.
Whereas like they've got those cool Harsey designs,
Yep.
folders, and frame locks and stuff. Like it would be more of an outdoor spin, but like I kind of like the angle they're taking because they are sticking to the pretty robust like
Yeah. Their
nuts and
aesthetic.
bolts,
Yeah.
like yeah, and I like that. There's also guys like Demco who are making those folders, and then
Does
there's
Demco the Shark Lock?
yep, yep,
Yeah, it's
and
super
s
cool.
and so he does something similar to me where he does like the low volume production,
Hmm.
and that's something that he's been at least I don't know the guy, but I
I
follow
don't
him.
either, man. He's been around forever. He's someone in the industry like that I maybe have never met. That's always strange to
I've
me.
never met him.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's always strange to me. Does super cool work.
I like it. Yeah,
Yeah,
he's got an aesthetic that I mean, it's not like I'm interested in doing copying him, but it's like I can just see my brand being similar to his
yeah,
in
yeah,
the end
yeah,
result.
yeah,
And then there's just in general, there's just like Benchmade as a
yeah,
whole. You know what I mean? Like they make the high end stuff. They have their gold class, but the fundamental like Griptilian
yeah.
or the Osborne, you know what I mean? Like
Bug out.
those, yeah, the bug out.
Right.
That's exactly where I want to go.
Yeah.
And not yeah, again, I don't want it to look like their knives, but
Right.
that
Or
sort of audience.
not price point either, probably.
Right, right. It depends. I mean, there's some Benchmates that really get up there, but
Start getting up there.
yeah, just depends. But yeah, that'd be fun.
Yeah, it's I don't know. It's an interesting one to look at. You're like, who carries a folder? Like I look at it like everybody carries a folder. But folders that are carried in the knife industry are, I think, very different in general than folders that are carried in the outdoor market.
Hmm. Yeah.
Right. Where you're like a lot of folders, like even custom inspired production design, a lot of times like it's thicker blades. There's like a lot of curves or angles or chamfers. Like go to cut an apple and you're like, pop this apple in half because it's just
Hmm.
going to pry it down.
Hmm.
But like you look at like I mean, there's a lot of Swiss Army knives in a lot of backpacks, you
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
in the world. And you're like, that does a lot. That I think I keep coming back to like thinner blade stock as being more and more interesting to me,
Hmm.
purely from a function standpoint,
Yeah. No, and I agree. I was
you know?
telling Dalton that today in the shop. We were having just a conversation about the knife industry while the machines were running, and I was saying talking about what we've talked about on the podcast, which is like when I came in, everyone wanted thick, thick, thick
Yeah.
blade stock, and now it's like turning back into thin is what everyone's looking for. It
Yeah.
seems
It's
like.
more, it's refined,
Yeah.
and steels are so good. I used to make a tactical. It was like kind of like a classic, like what you would consider like a double edged fighter, called the Striker, and it was always 3/16 stock, and it looks beautiful. And like you look tip down, and it basically is a big diamond, and it's rad.
Hmm.
And I remember one time I made one out of 1/8 inch CPM 3V, and it was terrifying. And I was like, this feels like such an effective tool, and it's lightweight, and like, oh, you can slice up a tomato with it
Yeah.
too. Like
Yeah.
it just like felt very, very serious. We've talked about that a little bit. Like knives that like give you almost like a primal feeling. So like for me, it's stuff that Jason Knight makes,
Hmm.
and like Adam DeRozier, where you're like, you pick it up and you're like, oh, this thing just wants to eat.
Mhm.
Like
Yep.
it just is going to work. Like whatever you put at it, it's going to work.
It's kinda like if you ever played baseball very much, it's like you put a baseball glove on, and all you can think is like, "Someone throw something at me, please."
Yeah, please.
You know what I mean?
I'm built for this.
Yeah, I'm ready to let's do it. And
Yeah.
yeah, that's how I feel when I hold the right knife is I'm ready to
It's
jam.
pretty
And
it's pretty fun. Like it's got yeah, there's like an itness.
mhm,
I'm like working on new design stuff now kind of, and I'm noticing that has been where my head is kind of at. It's like these very dad thoughts of like, oh, I want to be able to cut up apples, like,
mhm,
and just so it's like, oh, cool. Like I don't need like a crazy huge wide blade. I need like this slim. Yeah, it's like going back like 50, 60 years into what
mhm.
pocket knives were, but then carrying our like aesthetics through, I guess.
Yeah, yeah.
There's a few companies that do modern knives. I think most of them are European, where they have like like a 16th of an inch thick blade, and it looks and feels weird until you use it, and you're like, oh, it's so good,
Yep.
right? There's a company that does them, I think, out of like tungsten.
Oh, I think I
That
did see that.
you've
Yeah.
seen those, and you're
Yep.
like, oh, it's like I don't know, or the ceramic blades, and you're like, oh, it feels weird, and then you're like, oh, yeah,
Yeah,
it's so
yeah.
slicey.
Yeah, the right knife for the right job, I think is definitely true. And those thin knives, yeah, I mean, you pick up a kitchen knife. If the kitchen knife was 3/16 thick, you're gonna have a rough day.
Yeah.
So,
Well, and like, I mean, some of the Japanese stuff is weird. Like they do weirdly thick things, and then
mm,
super super thin.
yeah,
It's and like I think like looking at European kitchen knives, like there's a few patterns. And then you look at like Japanese kitchen knives, and there's 50. It's like every job has its own
yeah.
specific like shape, size, thickness, grind.
The Japanese do it different.
It's a
I
detail
I dig it.
oriented. I
Yeah,
know.
yeah.
Makes it hard to have a
They're
knife block though.
yeah.
Like,
That's valid. Yeah, you almost need like a tool chest for your kitchen
like
knives.
here's my
Yeah,
wall.
yeah.
It's just like,
Right.
oh man. Okay.
Yeah, yeah. It's I I'm rounding the corner on a new knife. It's been a good
Oh
week.
dude. Let's talk about it.
Yeah, I was luckily successful last week on the pod. I was talking about trying to get an Overland Sport machine this week. Got her licked, so I've got a handful of them at Heat Treat that I dropped off today. So they will become the initial prototypes for like the launch to just like get them finished up
Oh,
and
nice.
get all the fixturing done so that I have real photography of it and stuff. So maybe next week. So fingers crossed that Heat Treat comes through. I could bring one of them to Blade.
Oh man.
So I didn't think it was possible when I first started designing it. I'm like, no way this thing's ready for Blade. But if Heat Treat turns it around like they typically do, I probably will have it there,
You
like
could because you're
finished.
getting ready to machine handles.
Yep. But the only question is whether I'm skeptical that I'll have a sheath for Blade
Oh yeah.
Show. I might hand make one like without setting up all the fixturing just so I can carry it, but I'm
Dude,
not
there's
going
a
to have
lot of
a
knife makers that don't have sheaths at Blade Show.
yeah.
Just put it
For,
in just put it into cardboard.
yeah, I might have to do that. But I think I'll have one. The heat treater I've been using is super legit, really fast turnaround. So
Nice. That's amazing. I mean, we're coming into the weekend, so if he gets it back to you in that kind of turnaround, that's amazing.
yeah, it's usually 4 to 5 business days,
Oh wow.
4 to 6 business days maybe.
You haven't shown pictures of it.
Nope, I teased it today. I
I'm
did
trying to
tease
like
it.
think if I can like ask any questions around it.
I don't care, dude. I
How
honestly
thick's the blade?
my opinion right now is with podcast listeners, I'm totally fine with just being an open book because like
Oh.
if you're riding this roller coaster with us, you get the inside track, and I don't
I
really
like
care.
that. I like it.
But no, it's 130 thou is the blade
Okay.
thickness,
Nice.
which is the same as the Confidant.
Yep.
And I like I like it. I think I could have gone thinner, but it's an Overland, and the way that I'm using it, it's like it seemed like a good balance,
Yeah.
and I'm pretty happy with it holding it.
It's
So,
wild how at those smaller sizes, 10 thousandths on steel can actually make a
very
difference.
noticeable
Yeah.
because the full size Overland's only 140, so
Yeah.
it's like, and you look at them next to each other, like whoa, there's a big difference.
There's a difference.
10 thou.
Yep.
Yep.
That's
And
pretty sweet.
I did remove a bunch of weight in the handle with a hole with a lightning pocket, which I've never done before.
Oh, really?
Yeah, no, none of my other knives are weight relieved.
I did notice that.
Hmm. And
why do you not do weight relieving? Because I feel like like regardless of its efficiency, I do feel like it is like the status quo.
I there's a couple reasons why I didn't do it on like the Overland and the Confidant. And this is up for debate. Like I'm pretty on the fence about whether I should have or shouldn't have. One of the reasons is they both are 3 hardware position knives. They have 3 bolts holding it
Mm-hmm.
together. That leaves you 2 little regions for removal.
Mm-hmm.
There's really not enough mass that can be taken out between those that to make like a huge difference. And the Overland Sport's a 2 screw knife, so you have like a way bigger piece of real estate for that removal to happen.
Right.
So that's one of them, is that like the juice may not be worth the squeeze weight wise, but the main reason that I thought of as to avoid it is like the Confidant being a hunting knife and the Overland being like a field knife is that they're not the handles aren't glued on, and I'm not a huge fan of worrying about submerging it in water and filling that with water, and then you're like rusting out and like molding the inside of the void like that. And that's always just
Mm-hmm.
like irked me, and so
In the
I've
back of your
avoided
head.
it.
So you would
Um,
rather have a flat surface. That I mean that makes sense because you're actually now you're increasing. If you have a flat surface, like capillary action can still draw water in,
mhm.
but you don't have a void for more water.
Yeah, it's not gonna like fill
Oh,
with
that's it.
water.
That's interesting.
Yeah, and I've even thought about like backfilling it with something, like with epoxy or like filling it with
Dude, I've
G10 or
I've
something.
played with a lot of kind of concepts around that exact thing because I love takedown knives.
Mhm.
It's how I actually think like for me that itness, I just like a knife that has removable scales. Not that I
Yeah.
ever want to
Me
remove
me
them.
too.
It's just like if you ever need to refinish it or like something, I like it.
Mhm.
Uh, Along that same line of thought, I was in my truck. Yes, I'm getting ready to sell my truck, and I found uh, a dad fixed blade, right, a custom. And I was like, I really like this. I'm just gonna put it in the kitchen. 'Cause I don't have like a custom kitchen knife that I've made on my
Mhm.
block, so I put the dad up there. I've been using it for everything,
Nice.
and it has removable scales and it has lightning holes. And I'm very curious. That was one of the
Yeah.
reasons I did it. And like I'm using it as a bar knife. I'm cutting limes. I'm cutting meat with it. Like it doesn't. So we'll pull it apart
Yeah, and
and check it out.
it may not be like it may be a little bit unfounded to worry that much about that, but it's ultimately the balance of like I can't remove that much weight with a 3 screw
Yeah.
knife. It's like what a fraction of an
Yeah.
ounce, and then you have to end up with these pockets, and I'm like,
Yeah.
it's probably not worth it. But it, like manufacturing wise, it doesn't make a difference.
Yeah.
Like it does, I don't care as
Yeah.
far as like money involved in
Yeah. But
making the
I
knife.
feel like that's a lot of what we do is this kind of aim small, miss small, like conceptual work where in your brain you're going, yeah, if I put that pocket, it's going to draw water in. Regardless of if it does or does not actually do that, I think that having that thought is important in the way that we all work because like we have different thoughts around it.
Mhm.
And I think that that is going to inform other decisions up and downstream of that decision
Mhm.
when you design a product.
Mhm.
Right. It's just like kind of trust your gut. If you're like, I don't want to do this because there's gonna be water inside,
Right.
don't do it.
Yeah. Yeah, it's everything's a give and take, and with the Overland Sport, I turned the corner on that. I actually had them water jet without the hole so that I
Mm-hmm.
could decide whether I wanted it or not after making one, and I
Mm-hmm.
machined the first one, and I felt how light it was with that hole, and I was like, "Yeah, I'm keeping it." Partly because it's like it's more of an EDC size,
Mm-hmm.
and again, because of the 2 screws, I actually am losing quite a bit of weight by pulling the middle out of that. And with the more EDC application, like, yeah, it's can be used outdoors to the extent that it could get water in it, but it's like I'm not really branding it as like a hunting knife. You
Sure.
know what I mean?
She's not worried about like
Um,
a bunch of blood.
so yeah, I could go either way. Like I don't know.
These are the small
Yeah,
details. My solution at this point moving forward, I think, is probably VHB tape,
I've done
which is
all,
cool.
all the knives I built before now were
Uh-huh.
all VHB'd.
I think it's cool.
Yeah,
And
I
I
like it.
also it's this linking of technologies. So I haven't tried cutting VHB on the laser, but like we have a Cricut and we like a little plotter. And I just like this idea that
Hmm.
like once you have CAD for something, the more
Yeah,
processes you can use that same CAD on,
you
the
know who
higher the value.
your clicker will cut it. That's what a
Yeah,
lot of
clicker
people
will
do.
cut it.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
That seems like a waste though, almost, because it's so thin.
Yeah.
Like you run a spool of it through a plotter and it just, bzzz, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
It's awesome stuff, dude. It's
yeah.
I swear by it. Like I said, I all the knives that I was building prior to this new era of my knives were
Hmm.
all they had no visible hardware. They had blind pins on the
Hmm.
inside. It was kind of like a little bit of a signature. And so they were all VHB'd with no pins visible.
I
And
did not realize that you used VHB for that.
yeah, they're all VHB'd. Hmm.
Any field reports as far as like it just holds up?
Uh Never
No
heard a word
visible
back.
seam
So
or anything?
no, I mean, but there is a gap. I mean, there is a tiny, tiny, tiny. We're talking like a couple thou, few
Yeah.
thou. So there is that, but it's also
Visible?
yes, but it's
Okay.
also sealed. So it's like it doesn't. That's not an access point for moisture.
Totally. Yeah.
So it depends on what you're looking for. But uh, I know like Chris Reeve, they hold all of their wood inserts in their
Yeah.
folders with VHB. They VHB, at least they used to. They have takedown fixed blades, right? Like they're
Hmm.
Pacific. Those are VHB, even though they
Yeah.
have screws.
That
And
was always my thought. You can unstick it. It's just not easy.
it's I haven't tried to unstick like a really well mounted knife handle,
Sure.
but I've heard it is very close to impossible.
Okay. And realizing there's also different types of VHB and
Mhm.
your like so a Charbonneau where you have pins and you have no access point. That I would agree with you.
Mhm.
I think if you remove the scales from a slab handled knife and are able to twist, I think that like the shear is different than like the pull,
Yeah. Oh yeah, for sure.
right?
For sure. Yeah, no, I agree.
Okay,
And
more
I've
testing.
actually considered making an option or maybe doing like a sprint run of say the Overland with going to that hidden pin look on the Overland itself and with the VHB.
Oh, that's interesting.
Because if you really wanted to use this as like an actual kitchen knife or like an actual hunting
Yeah,
knife,
yeah.
that might actually be better. It would
Huh.
remove the possibility of customization and
Yeah,
then the ability to refinish it,
yeah.
but it might actually pay off. So I've thought about that. That's kind of in my back pocket maybe someday.
The small details, man. I honestly
Yeah.
I would say that probably we're 90% overthinking it. Like think about
Yeah.
every old wood handled kitchen knife that has been floating in someone's dishwater since like their great grandparents.
Mhm.
Yeah, made out of carbon steel.
Yeah.
Still works.
Mhm.
Might have some rust inside. Not a big deal. Are
Yeah.
you familiar with Timberline knives from the past?
It rings a bell, but no, not
Okay.
really.
So Timberline was awesome. They're from Colorado. It was, I'm going to blank on the names of the individual makers, but it was like three custom makers, I think, that came together and built a production company.
Hmm.
The, sorry, my phone's going. Um, the work was awesome. It was varied. One of the knife makers made these really like he still made or I don't know if he still makes knives, but he made custom knives after I think they were like the company disbanded.
Hmm.
Removable scales. And then inside the removable scales were like cool little survival kits.
That's cool.
But they were sealed, I think. And so that to me, I was always like, that is really cool. Like if you have a void inside of your handle, you can leave it completely empty or you can put something in it.
Mhm.
I just love like how did any of those ever get used? Probably not, but it had like some waterproof
Yeah,
matches and some like fishing line.
that's cool.
It's the 80s
Yeah.
in me that loves that,
Yeah. No, that's really cool. I
right?
have thought about milling a small groove in the bottom of the scale that you
Mm-hmm.
get a big enough O-ring to like O-ring the scale.
Yes, dude, that is so good.
But the only problem is you'd also need O-rings around the screws around that, or else that would be an access point. So it'd be a little bit of engineering to make that work, but it'd be freaking cool.
You know, it'd be a fun exercise is to all of this stuff takes time and money. And I think a lot of us, we do things in our knives that from a purely business standpoint, like aren't necessarily a good decision. We do it because we like it, because it makes the product the
Mhm.
way we want it. It would be really fun to have levels of options where you're like, this is so far overboard
Yeah.
from what you need. And it is expensive, or it is, here's the price when it's done, and just see how many people choose it.
Yeah.
Knowing myself, I would never be base. And I would, anything that started to like tilt into like luxury, I wouldn't do. But if you gave me a solid argument for why something made the product better, more durable, or more capable, dude, I would have a very hard time not like,
I'm the same way.
$300 knife, like $100 option, like, oh, but it's a cool
Yeah.
option.
And then you end up, if you buy the base model, then you're sitting there looking at it like, oh, I didn't get the cool one,
Dude, yeah,
No,
it
that's
would just
true.
be fun to see where you're like, okay, you can have every screw O-ringed, like,
Right.
just
Here's the thought I've considered. Removable scales.
okay.
I could do it on the Overland I already have.
Okay.
Instead of VHB,
Yep.
you get like clear vinyl
Okay.
and you just one-sided.
Yep.
You cut it to the shape of the scale.
I see where you're
You
at.
put it on the tang.
Yeah.
So the scales are still removable.
Yeah.
But underneath you have essentially a rust barrier.
That's actually a fantastic idea.
I've thought about that. That'd be cool.
That is a fantastic idea. You could even just slightly underside, because you could do the same thickness. It could be like 2 thousandths thick vinyl, clear, right? And you just lay it. Would one side be adhesive, or are we talking like, okay,
adhesive,
so one side's adhesive
to the blade. So it's like you're allowing water under the scale, but it's going to be in between the vinyl and the scale, and the steel will be.
Dude, I would argue that you could use something without adhesive, and if there's a layer of vinyl held down by mechanical fasteners, there's nothing going inside.
Yeah. And then it's removable, replaceable.
That's actually that's a really solid idea.
And if you had the pockets in there, it would seal those.
And if you then had a survival kit in there, it would be sweet. When you were saying like potential for filling, I automatically went to 3D printing. Oh, and then my brain's like, well, if you're going to 3D print something to go in there, could you 3D print something useful?
Right.
Like,
keep a couple of quarters in there in case you see a gumball machine out there,
Dude, I don't know. I feel like, I think we've talked about like the Chris Reeve hollow handled knives. It's probably one of my all-time favorite knives in history. They are so cool and so specific, and they're not made anymore. Mm-hmm. I'm going to do a trade for one soon. I need one.
I bet they're hard to find, and you need to trade something nice for it these days.
Every once in a while we do. I say every once in a while. I haven't done it probably in 8 years, but in my Facebook group, I'll do what I call Barter Town, and I'll throw up. I'll basically throw up like it's usually a SciPop, and say like, all right, like,
what do you got?
All options entertained. And I'm very clear that it's fully capitalistic. So I do in fact love the drawing that your child did. It's probably not going to pull it.
Right. Yeah.
So I think last time I got like, I ended up with like a Sig Equinox or something.
Oh, cool.
It was okay. It's super fun because you're like,
is fun.
You see like in these groups, like so many people have so many interests, and you just realize like someone's got something that they are bored of.
Yeah. And it's something that is cool.
Yeah. It's something that's cool. And it's just like so varied. We had people be like, all right, like a vacation. They're like, my family owns like this like company that like does these experiences, and they're like, you get here, we'll take you on like the cruise or whatever it was. And I was like, I just see like, man, for as many people as you kind of interact with through social media, like you don't know what they do, what their family does, and this is a really fun way to like engage that.
Oh, for sure.
So
no, that's awesome. I might have to think about that.
That's pretty fun, man.
That does sound fun.
It also is like, I feel like it's like old school knife maker to trade, and I like it.
Oh, I just traded a knife with Jesse Jaros. I don't think I.
Oh, really?
That. Yeah, he made me one of his custom Merlins. I got it sitting right in front of me. It's really nice. He does such good work, dude.
Super
such
clean.
Good work. His on this model, the Merlin, the tang comes standard tapered.
Yeah,
which is crazy. Like a standard offering on a small knife to be a tapered tang. That's
hold it up. Let me see it.
So leather sheath.
Oh, dude, great size. Yeah. How thick is it? See, it's like
Taper tank.
Okay,
Oh,
and
oh,
you guys aren't looking at this. There's one like very specific feature about this, which is the liners are reverse tapered.
yeah, exactly. So the
That's
knife stays
crazy.
parallel with.
Yeah,
Yeah, no, that's. Yeah, like I
that
said,
is
this impressed
super
me.
nice. Yeah, super nice
This
work.
impressed me a lot. Good job, Jesse.
Nice work, Jesse.
Yeah.
Pretty good. What else we got, man? This is like we're very random lately.
No, it's all right.
Like
I mean, I'm having fun.
me
But
too.
my dad has a podcast. Did I tell you that?
I think you did mention it. What's it called? Let's shout
It's
it out.
called it's Monday Morning with Carrie and Willie. My dad's name is Carrie, and Wilson is one of his like best buddies.
Dude,
It's
I
like
love it.
Wilson is the Burnley to my dad. You know what I mean?
I love it.
Yeah, and they do it every Monday morning. And Wilson's a bit and spur maker, like one of the best in the world at making really high end
Yeah.
bits and spurs. And so they just
Wilson Capron, right? Capron?
Capron.
Capron. Okay.
Yeah, Texas Capron.
Yep.
Yeah,
Got it.
yeah, and they're having a good time.
Yeah. You guys should definitely Google both of those gentlemen because they are absolute masters of their respective crafts. Bit and
Legit.
spur is wild.
It is.
It is 100% like high end knife industry. Crazy money, like
It's
crazy demand.
It's very similar to like the ABS,
Yeah.
but it goes in a horse's mouth.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's very
Or on your
interesting.
boots.
Yeah, or spurs. Yeah,
Man, spurs.
yeah, we can talk about Wilson, dude. That guy's a mover and a groover. He's a smart guy.
Yeah.
He's very forward thinking in that sector, that industry. Like there's a lot of very traditionalism stuff going on, which I totally get, but he's a very like aggressive, just like forward leaning,
Yeah.
new interesting things all the time. He's a cool guy.
I mean, your dad is too, right? Like your dad is very traditional, but he also is not like dogmatic about
Right.
what he thinks like the leathercraft industry should be. Is that
Yeah.
correct?
No, I agree. He did a Dr. Seuss saddle, dude.
Dude, that's amazing. Those are the things, those right there.
Yeah.
Those are the types of projects that like make you a legend eventually.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Dude, you have to send me pictures of that.
You didn't see that one yet?
No.
Oh, I got to send it. It's like
What?
Cat in the Hat in it and stuff. And like, you know, the bowl with the fish, the goldfish, like
Yes.
that's on the side of the saddle and stuff.
Yeah, no,
And
that's next level.
it was a custom order. I mean, it was made specifically by request, but yeah.
You know that you are like, that's weird. How do I phrase this? This is like a weird comment. It's almost like you're at the beginning of your craft or you're at such a comfortable point with your skills that you can do a project like that.
You can play. Yeah.
It's like you either don't know anything and you play, or you make it through like the middle passage of like worrying about what other people think of your work and like trying to prove that it's good and get to a point and you're like, I don't care.
Yeah.
Like I can build it ever I want.
Yeah. It's kind of like a Bob Terzola vibe. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Where he's just like, I'm just going to have a good time, joke around.
Have a good time.
I'm going to post pictures of like a chicken swimming in my swimming pool with me. Like,
yeah.
like, yeah.
It's good. I'm so psyched for Bob. We talked about that a little bit, right? Like he's being inducted into the Knife Makers Hall of Fame.
Oh, that's awesome.
Big. And like so well deserved.
Mm-hmm.
I'm happy for him.
Yeah. If the Hall of Fame can't hold him in it, then
Dude,
I don't know what it's for. You know, he's just GOAT status, you know.
He is.
He's legit.
He really is.
Yeah.
It's fun, dude. I might go see the induction, actually.
So is it not at the banquet?
It is. They moved it, I think.
Oh, okay.
I think they do it like in the morning now or something.
I got very lucky to see Chris Reeve get inducted.
Oh,
I just coincidentally was at that banquet when he did, and that was cool. Just, you know, Boise proud kind of thing.
It's a big deal. Mm-hmm. Another like very deserving.
Yeah.
You know, maker.
That's absolutely true. Did you know Ken Onion's the youngest ever?
I did know that.
Yeah. It's
interesting. It is. It's a waiting game.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, which is hard, man, because at this point, people in the industry can accomplish a lot in a different timeline than like the original.
Mm-hmm.
I think I think inductees,
Yeah.
and Ken might be like a good example of that
He's the new
because
era.
yeah, he's like the youngest of the new era, which is wild because he's young, but he's not like, he's not a kid.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
He's got what, 20 years on us or
Yeah.
30 years on
Yeah.
you.
I think he told me he was 27 or 8 when he made his first knife.
Okay.
And it was like immediately after that, he was pretty much with Kershaw, like right then. So it was like his early
That's
30s.
wild. I didn't
Yeah.
realize it was
Yeah.
that quick.
It was quick. It was very quick. Because he, like I said, it was kind of it was like 28 years old. So at least
Wow.
from what I remember, I
Meteoric
could,
rise.
yeah. Meteoric is right. I think it was fast.
I mean,
Yeah.
huh. Yeah, pretty interesting. I guess, yeah, like industry groups like that, it's fun to see them, or I guess it's worth watching like how they adapt to like technology in the industry. Because I mean, it's just changed. Like social media has changed so much around the way like we as knife makers can build reputations and like be seen and get our work seen.
Mm-hmm.
The
Yeah.
old school man would have been, it's like a different. I was listening to a sea shanty today, as I want to do, and it's talking about like how there's no real sailors anymore, and you're like, yeah, absolutely, like I get it.
Yeah.
I get it. I feel like knife making is maybe that same way where they're like, oh yeah, you just like take a picture and then everybody sees it. I had to like hand draw a catalog and take it to the show on my horse.
Dozier and Loveless just like shaming us. Yeah. Yeah.
Dude.
Oh,
Dozier's he's like one of those guys that is insanely hardworking and crazy prolific.
Yeah. Crazy. Yeah, he reaches outside the knife industry. Like I've had multiple people that I've talked to that aren't knife industry fans that know about Dozier.
Yeah,
and them and like Randall. Randall's
Randall is probably I would say like of different era, but like similar. Man, there's a similarity in exactly kind of the way you just phrased it is the thing. It's like, why did they reach past Randall? I think it's like you could get him at like Paragon Sports in New York City.
Mm-hmm.
So you go to like buy like a fancy gift or something, and then like they're there.
Yeah, and Randall's one of those companies that became like, I got a Randall, and they're talking about a knife.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. I mean, not so much anymore, but in that era, in their prime,
dude, I would disagree with that.
Really,
I would say that it is, dude. I think they have, the last I heard, I think they had a 6-year backlog.
Oh, wow. Still crushing it.
So, and
they're just enough out of my periphery that I only see them pop up occasionally.
Totally.
But I just remember my dad talking about them when I was a kid.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They have the feel.
Yeah.
They're like, they're definitely from a different time too. And like their manufacturing process, they're a manufacturer.
Mm-hmm.
They do not make their knives like manufacturers make their knives today. It's like a step. It's like, oh man, it's like almost like full handmade. It's just it's like in batches, but that is like
large volume handmade knives.
Large volume handmade.
Yeah, it's cool.
Finishes that support like the function. They're not like overly finished.
Yeah.
They make like classic models.
I might need to get a Randall. Track one down.
Dude, we're spending a lot of money in this show.
I know.
Far, like,
right?
Okay, I need spurs.
I'm gonna put some of my knives up and be like, anybody got a Randall? Want to trade?
Dude, build a fun one. That's the key. Like, build something funky.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it'll pull one.
Dr. Seuss.
Dude, Dr. Seuss. Something. Get crazy with the Cerakote.
No, speaking of tactile with their pens, they're doing some cool stuff with that Cerakote. How they're doing like the 8-bit.
Yep.
I saw that. It was like a Nintendo theme. I love that.
Yeah.
I love that.
It's just cool. It's more fun, man. It just creates interest. Like, I love themes. Mm-hmm. Everything, we like take everything so seriously.
I've been thinking about doing one of my knives as a World War II theme because I'm so into that. Like a mil-spec OD with a wood, like a walnut handle.
Yes.
And a leather sheath in like a wood box, with like Excelsior bedding for I've been thinking about that.
Okay. So we're going to go back to Randall now.
Okay.
Dude, a Randall style military sheath with an Arkansas stone holder on the front.
That'd be fun.
Dude, that would be sweet.
That would be awesome.
It's like it's like very classic.
And also because I would take like a modern design language and make
Yeah.
it vintage, like
Yeah.
backpedal. It's kind of like
Yeah.
what I did with that comb.
Yeah.
I kind of like doing that.
I don't want that. I want those to still be in existence.
The comb.
Yep.
Yeah. I probably
Probably just
should.
just the brand,
Hmm.
like the concept was so good.
It was fun. I do want to bring it back. Maybe with my extra help, extra set of hands in the shop, that's
Bring
something
it
that can
back.
come back.
Or maybe that is something that you actually like license to somebody.
I thought about it,
Do
dude. I've thought for a long time that I would probably sell that brand if someone wanted it. If
you
someone
know
wanted,
who would be an interesting partner on that one?
who?
Potentially. Andrew Bowiedeman.
Don't know.
You
Sorry,
will
Andrew.
after this pod.
Yeah, I'll have a look.
Dude. It fits so well. He's like another one of these guys that's just like way too talented. So artist does like World War II like pinup art, kind of
Oh,
modernized. It's Bowiedeman Blade Works was the original company. He does at this point like he does a really cool like SFK single finger knuckle called the Doughboy that's like based on like the old like trench knife.
yeah, yeah.
Just the aesthetic. It's the aesthetic. It's canvas and brass.
Yep.
It's leather. It's like all the materials, and that comb is just such like a fun platform.
It is fun. It should probably come back.
It should.
It probably should. I The retailers really loved them
Yeah.
because it was below the price point of most knives that are quality, but it
Yep.
was like if you take a comb and make it high quality and
Yep.
unique, it's still not the price of like high quality and unique for a knife.
Yep.
So it was like a niche in the market, like sub $100 that wasn't really being filled.
Dude, you did such a good job. I have one brand new in the packaging because
Oh,
I loved what you did. Everything felt right. Like that as a
hmm.
product was like fully cooked. Like
I pr-
you had the aesthetic. And that I think like that is just more and more interesting to me is like I always made sheaths for my knives because when I made a knife and didn't have a sheath for it, it made me feel weird because it wasn't done. I understand
mhm.
why people don't make sheaths. That's how I feel about kind of branding and packaging now.
Packaging. Yeah.
Yeah.
How does it look when you actually open the knife? Yeah, for
Yeah. It
sure.
might be like, and that might be like iPhone age where you're like, you're so trained to enjoy like the user experience.
Yeah. No,
I
I
don't know.
no, I agree with that for sure.
It's like the
You,
options package. You
you know,
open it and you're like, it makes you feel good.
for sure.
Right.
It's like these microphones we're using that had good packaging.
Dude, they were sweet.
So, funny story, I designed the website for Standard Issue 1942, which is what that comb series was. I used an image, stock image I found on the internet, actual World War II image, because that's all public domain. Had the main image of the website. I had like red accent with like black lettering, and I tried to make it just like really good. And I'm walking through Walmart, and there's a Life magazine that was talking about World War II. They had the same picture, the same color red, and like almost
What?
the exact same font. And it was like a spitting image of the front page of my website on a Life magazine. Obviously convergent. I mean, we were like
Totally.
in totally separate pools, but I bought it and I have it and it's like an exact replica. It's really funny.
Oh, I love
It's
it. Did
just
you
funny
take the
how
website down or is there like a
I,
landing page still?
I have the URL, but I can't remember. I used to have it routed to my current site, but I don't
Mhm.
sell those combs on my site
Yeah.
anymore. But I still own the URL.
It's wild to think like, okay, so that aesthetic is so different than what you're doing now.
Hmm.
I struggle with that where I realize like some of the products on our website are like different eras.
Hmm.
And but it's like, what do you do with that when you actually really like a product?
Yeah.
I choose to not worry about it. Um, it's kind of how I feel about our logo. Like when we do BRNOY, at this point I'm very comfortable in like doing it in different ways. And it's just
Hmm.
because like what are you gonna do? Like it looks different. It's for different people. It is harder with product though.
Hmm. Yeah. Hey, I just realized
Do it.
my brother-in-law just walked into the shop and I can hear him talking to Dalton out there.
Uh oh.
Probably should go say hi to him. He
Go get
wants
them.
some whey oil for a surface grinder.
I love it, man. All right, dude. Have a great family trip, and we're gonna hang out next week. So
Yeah. Let's do it.
that's gonna be
I
fun.
can't wait.
Nice guys. Thanks for
Appreciate
listening.
everybody.
Yep, appreciate you guys.
Later.
Later.